What is an emotional flashback? According to Pete Walker, emotional flashbacks are intensely disturbing regressions or amygdala hijacks to the overwhelming feeling states of your childhood abandonment. When you are stuck in a flashback, fear, shame, and or depression can dominate your experience. Emotional flashbacks are one of the main differences between PTSD and complex PTSD. And today, I want to focus on managing emotional flashbacks using the 13 steps outlined in Pete Walker's book, Complex PTSD From Surviving to Thriving. Hi, I am Raysa, a survivor of narcissistic abuse, and I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and you are listening to Hello Trauma Brain, a podcast where I share my experiences living with complex PTSD. My hope is this podcast can help destigmatize mental health and provide support to anyone diagnosed with CPTSD who thinks they might have it or has a loved one with this diagnosis. Quick reminder, I am not a licensed psychologist or mental health care professional, and this podcast is not meant to replace nor substitute the care of psychologists, other mental or medical health care professionals. If you think you might have complex PTSD or PTSD, please reach out to your primary care or mental health care provider. Any individuals and resources mentioned in this episode are not sponsoring Hello Trauma Brain. This episode may reference trauma or abuse, and listener discretion is advised. Remember, you can always pause or skip this episode at any time. And now, let's get back to the episode. Hello, dear survivors, and welcome to this episode of Hello Trauma Brain. Thank you for joining me today. If you are listening on YouTube, a gentle reminder to hit the like button and subscribe to let me know this episode was helpful. So, quick check-in. First things first, I want to thank all of you who have reached out to me since last week's episode called Proudly Coming Out. It is exactly what it sounds like. And I want to let you know that what you've sent me has had a huge impact. I have felt the love, I have felt the support, and I'm so grateful that it's been received with such kindness and compassion, because it was a hard episode for me to record and to release. And I'm just, even though part of me is still waiting for the shoe to drop. I have to say, as of the day when I'm recording this episode, which is only a few days after that episode has been released, I have received great messages. I have not received a hater message, and I'm really grateful for that, because I was, again, really scared, and seeing your reaction to the episode has been a way to reinforce that I made the right decision, and that's a good feeling. And it really is a good feeling. So this weekend has been really weird, and I want to say I might be in a little bit of an emotional flashback even right now. So yesterday I had a bit of an unsettling experience. I basically witnessed an abuser at full-blown rage mode, abusing someone else. And it was really, oh my gosh, did it take me back. And the person that was on the receiving end of the abuse, they actually called the police. And I'm very proud of them for doing that, because it modeled for me that is what you do when someone is acting that way. That's how you protect yourself, or one way you can protect yourself. And they took care of the abuser. The abuser left, and I've been thinking about that a lot, because when the abuser was blowing up, and I was, I was not directly being abused, but I could hear it from where I was. I went in a bit of a freeze, hypervigilance mode. Like I was very tuned into like, okay, am I hearing anybody calling out for help? What are they saying? Are they cursing, or are they screaming, which they were? And then I was trying to gauge like, okay, what's the best way to do this? Should I call? Should I not call? And I went into a freeze response, and I was sitting with that even after the fact. And I think part of it was that my experience in the past, calling police on people abusing me, it didn't go great. Well, not even great. It went bad. The cops didn't believe me. Let's start there. And of course, the bruise doesn't show up right away. It showed up the next day. So, when they showed up, they didn't believe me. The abuser was very good at portraying this picture of I was being the one abusing them. And the cops bought it. The cops bought it. And I yeah, I've heard so many horror stories, and I'm not trying to say that there is no hope for law enforcement. For example, yesterday I saw an example of how law enforcement can actually work, because they did get the person out of there. But historically speaking, for me, I've had some bad experiences that have left me very disillusioned. And I think my brain went there. I think I was in an emotional flashback yesterday in that aspect. And I think my inner kid was like, why bother? They're not gonna do anything. And something I need to work with her, because that's not the truth. And I'm not saying that as a way to invalidate what happened to me. That did happen, and they did let me down then. But that doesn't mean that every police officer or all law enforcement is, that doesn't mean they're all doomed. And I need to work on that black and white thinking, where I can recognize that even though some people might not be, they might not be in the right profession, that doesn't mean that they are all in the wrong profession. And there are some police officers out there that actually do their job very well. And yeah, I've sat with that. I did reach out to the person after the police had shown up to. I basically offered them resources if they needed them. We're not close, so I didn't know exactly the situation that was going on. I had an intuition. I had seen a few things happen earlier in the day that gave me the impression something was off. And let me tell you, as a survivor, I feel like that is one thing that I've noticed about myself. I have a bit of a I don't know. Some people might call it a sixth sense or a spidey sense or some sort of intuition. Like I can pick up on things being off rather quickly, and I think it is because I needed to develop that skill in order to survive many times. And when somebody was saying things are fine, I had to look for other things to actually confirm whether or not that was true. And I do rely a lot on body language, on tone, on pauses. Like there's things I can pick up that I know other people will miss. And oh, man. What does it feel like to navigate a room and not have to worry about that? I don't know. But in this scenario, I noticed a few things. And at the end of the day, I could look back and be like, yeah, I definitely, I wasn't just making it up. Something was off. And yeah, I'm really, really proud of this person for modeling, asking for help in that way for me. Because that's going to stay with me for a while. And if you have some bad experiences with, situations like this where law enforcement is involved, yeah, I hope this or hearing this can help you as well. Yeah, I've a lot of reflection. I had a long weekend, a few days off from work, and I go into this magical thinking, like every time I have like an extra day off or two, I really think to myself, okay, I'm going to get everything done. Like the place is going to be clean, spotless, and I'm going to get all the things done. And finally the mail's going to be, down to zero, no papers anywhere, hiding for months. Like I'm going to get it done. And as much as I have done this weekend, because it's not like I've been just sitting around. I mean, I have rested, and I'll talk about that in a moment, but I got a lot of stuff done too. I'm judging myself right now. It's Sunday night. I am recording the episode now. Quite frankly, I thought I would record the episode way earlier and I would have it edited by now and I would be way ahead of schedule. And I'm recording it tonight, which is behind schedule even for a normal week. And immediately I went into the place of judging myself. I shouldn't have laid on the yoga mat for as long as I did. I shouldn't have watched the show that I was watching to get myself to just forget about things for a bit. I shouldn't have this. I shouldn't have that. Oh, I slept in too much. Maybe I should have woken up earlier. Like, the judgment came back real quick, as it usually does. I'm trying to begin to see that those pockets of rest were needed. I needed to walk in nature. I really needed to just be on the yoga mat and be on an extended child's pose for 30 minutes and just listen to some soothing music to get myself to re-regulate after some of the stuff that I experienced. And that's part of the healing process, but dang, does my brain just not let me have it in peace? Oh my gosh. The moment I am 2 minutes behind, like the list just starts rushing through, all the things that I did to really treat myself, just become the reasons I'm punishing myself. Weird. And I need to work on that. I really need to work on that. Oh my goodness. Okay. So today I'm also going, against, the magical thinking. I thought I would be done reading Pete Walker's book by now, and I would be an expert in emotional flashbacks. And only when I'm an expert in emotional flashbacks can I make the episode on emotional flashbacks. I'm going against it. I'm going to tell you right now, I have the book right here. And for those of you that are newer to the podcast, just for reference, when I started the podcast back in August of 2023, I had just bought this book and made almost like, I want to say it was like the second episode was about how I thought I would do the podcast after I read this book. And I decided to instead get the book and read it along. And I read a little bit back then and then I stopped. So I am on page 61, looks like. Is that right? Maybe 62. That's right. Yeah, 62. I'm 62 pages in, months later. That's right. That's how this goes. It's okay. It's okay. I have not even read chapter 8 on emotional flashbacks, but guess what? I don't have to, because I'm going to start diving in and doing episodes on emotional flashbacks, and we'll spread them around. And today we're doing one of them. And the first episode I want to do on emotional flashbacks is going to be focused on the 13 steps for managing emotional flashbacks as outlined in Pete Walker's book. So the intro is referencing paragraph 1 from chapter 8, if you have Pete's book, which I will link in the show notes. A few more things about emotional flashbacks that I want to share before I dive into the steps. Second paragraph talks a little bit about how it can look like, and it says, these are some common experiences of being in an emotional flashback. You feel little, fragile, and helpless. Everything feels too hard. Life is too scary. Being seen feels excruciatingly vulnerable. Your battery seems to be dead. In the worst flashbacks, an apocalypse feels like it will imminently be upon you. So, let me first share how I have noticed that I experience emotional flashbacks. And I want to start off by saying this. The main difference, at least in my understanding, between a quote-unquote, regular flashback that somebody with PTSD would have, according to a movie, those flashbacks are almost like a vivid memory. The famous example of this would be the veteran who is watching fireworks, and all of a sudden the fireworks sounds can trigger the veteran to feel like they're back in combat. And because it can sound like weapons or guns, it takes the veteran back, and they feel like they really go back to being in the battlefield or in that situation where they were, where their life was threatened and the trauma was created. So when you get into the emotional flashback realm, it ain't that simple. Like, imagine the veteran freaking out at the fireworks, but they don't know why. They don't know why the fireworks are triggering. They're not aware that they're back in combat. they just are just looking at the sky, freaking out. Everybody around them, like, they also don't know why they're having this reaction. And what I'm trying to convey is the level of confusion and how just the lack of knowing where it comes from can be so disorienting. That's how an emotional flashback feels. Imagine having the reaction, but you don't know where you went, and you don't have a vivid memory. Like, you're not seeing yourself at a younger age experiencing A, B, or C. Like, you really are just having this reaction to what looks and seems like a normal situation around you, and not something that should be triggering that. And you don't know why it's happening, and the people around you don't know why it's happening. And quite frankly, an emotional flashback, I think it can be even worse when the people around you start acting like you're being unreasonable, or you're being dramatic, or like there's something wrong with you because you're reacting that way. So some ways that I have pinpointed my emotional flashbacks, heck, if I want to argue that I am in one a little bit right now, I think it's that I'm in a bit of an emotional flashback of feeling like I need to get everything done perfectly. And if I don't get everything done, then I'm bad, and I'm going to get in trouble, and somebody's going to come for me, and I'm going to get fired from my job, and I'm going to get, kicked out of my apartment, and I'm going to be out in middle of nowhere with no food and no nothing. Like, I can't tell you. I could take a guess. I won't right now, but I can't tell you right now that I know exactly what age I was and exactly what person or exactly what's triggering this feeling. Though I have my my suspicions, that's just not how I experience it. I just have this feeling right now that in this moment I'm being unreasonable about how upset I am that I have a mess around here. That's how it is. Other ways that I experience emotional flashbacks, and the I am in trouble is a big one. That one I know, it's gotten a lot better since I started healing, but in the past, like even an email from a boss or a coworker asking for something. Hey, Raysa, I can't find blah file, or I can't find this document, or where did you put this? Like, that would be enough to set me on a freak out. And I mean, I am frantically like responding, and my response would be dysregulated and defensive. And for a whole week, I would just be like scared that I'm going to get fired, or I'm going to get disciplined, or I'm going to get like something's going to happen to me because this person couldn't find something that I was in charge of, or whatever. Sometimes it's stuff that I'm not even in charge of. Like, I would get the emotional flashback and it turned out it was somebody else's job. But when you're dysregulated, your brain doesn't really go through that process of, oh, this is not my job, this is so and so. Your brain goes into, oh my gosh, what did I miss? Did I not see something? Did I miss the email? Crap, was I supposed to be doing that? Like, it's just chaos. It's chaos. And in that moment, it feels so big. It feels so overwhelming. And I think that's how I can tell I'm in an emotional flashback right now. I'm feeling like I'm on edge. I feel overwhelmed. Like, my brain right now is like, I'm trying to focus on saying this stuff to you, and I'm mostly unscripted today, except for reading the steps and whatnot. But I just feel like I am drowning, and I've run out of time, and and I feel it in my body. I feel the tension. I feel it in my bones. Like, crap. And the reality of the situation is, I'm not getting tested on this. The mail will be there tomorrow, and nobody's coming after me. My job's going to be there. The podcast is going to somehow come out, as it always does. And, dang. So, yeah, that's my little emotional flashback experience. So, what do we do? And this goes for me, too. I honestly, like, just wait for the healing invitation. That's a healing invitation I need to do, because I really need to really make this something that I use more often, more accessible, especially with how often I am in emotional flashbacks. I want to say, I mean, they have gotten better and the intensity has improved somewhat for some emotional flashbacks, but for the most part, I would say I go into some level of emotional flashbacks on the daily, honestly. I don't think I go through a single day where I don't experience some level of emotional flashbacks or an emotional flashback. So, Pete Walker has a whole chapter devoted to emotional flashbacks and managing them. And he has 13 steps for managing emotional flashbacks in his book. I'm just going to go ahead and read this to you because it speaks for itself. He explains them also, and like each step gets a little explanation. So I think that'll be helpful. And now you can bookmark this episode and come back here anytime you need to hear the steps for managing emotional flashbacks. Okay, step number 1. Say to yourself, I am having a flashback. Flashbacks take you into a timeless part of the psyche that feels as helpless, hopeless, and surrounded by danger as you were in your childhood. The feelings and sensations you are experiencing are past memories that cannot hurt you now. Step 2. Remind yourself, I feel afraid, but I am not in danger. I am safe now, here in the present. Remember, you are now in the safety of the present, far from the danger of the past. Step 3. Own your right/need to have boundaries. Remind yourself that you do not have to allow anyone to mistreat you. You are free to leave dangerous situations and protest unfair behavior. Step 4. Speak reassuringly to your inner child. The child needs to know that you love him or her or them unconditionally, that she, he, or they can come to you for comfort and protection when she, he, or them feels lost and scared. Step 5. Deconstruct eternity thinking. In childhood, fear and abandonment felt endless. A safer future was unimaginable. Remember, this flashback will pass as it always has before. Step 6. Remind yourself that you are in an adult body with allies, skills, and resources to protect you that you never had as a child. Feeling small and fragile is a sign of a flashback. Step 7. Ease back into your body. Fear launches you into heady worrying or numbing and spacing out. P.S. Definitely a step that I need to remember. Back to step number 7. A. Gently ask your body to relax. Feel each of your major muscle groups and softly encourage them to relax. Tightened muscles send false danger signals to your brain. B. Breathe deeply and slowly. Holding your breath also signals danger. P.S. I need to remember that too. C. Slow down. Rushing presses your brain's flight response button. D. Find a safe place to unwind and soothe yourself. Wrap yourself in a blanket, hold a pillow or a stuffed animal, lie down on your bed or in a closet or in a bath. Take a nap. E. Feel the fear in your body without reacting to it. Fear is just an energy in your body. It cannot hurt you if you do not run from it. Step 8. Resist the inner critic's drasticizing and catastrophizing. A. Use thought stopping to halt the critic's endless exaggerations of danger and its constant planning to control the uncontrollable. Refuse to shame, hate, or abandon yourself. Channel the anger of self-attack into saying no to your critic's unfair self-criticism. B. Use thought substitution and thought correction to replace negative thinking with a memorized list of your qualities and accomplishments. Step 9. Allow yourself to grieve. Flashbacks are opportunities to release old, unexpressed feelings of fear, hurt, and abandonment. Validate and soothe your child's past experience of helplessness and hopelessness. Healthy grieving can, Turn your tears into self-compassion and your anger into self-protection. Step 10. Cultivate safe relationships and seek support. Take time alone when you need it, but don't let shame isolate you. Feeling shame doesn't mean you are shameful. Educate your intimates about flashbacks and ask them to help you talk and feel your way through them. Step 11. Learn to identify the types of triggers that lead to flashbacks. Avoid unsafe people, places, activities, and triggering mental processes. Practice preventive maintenance with these steps when triggering situations are unavoidable. Step 12. Figure out what you are flashing back to. Flashbacks are opportunities to discover, validate, and heal your wounds from past abuse and abandonment. They also point to your still unmet developmental needs and can provide you with motivation to get them met. Step 13. Be patient with a slow recovery process. It takes time in the present to become de-adrenalized and considerable time in the future to gradually decrease the intensity, duration, and frequency of flashbacks. Real recovery is a gradually progressive process, often 2 steps forward and 1 step back, not an attained salvation fantasy. Don't beat yourself up for having a flashback. Oh, don't beat yourself for having a flashback. Ah, did anyone hear the beginning of this episode? I didn't even refresh on these. I've read them before, but I totally did not refresh them before recording my unscripted check-in. And wow, didn't I just do that? I totally just talked about how I was beating myself up for procrastinating and then also for having probably an emotional flashback. Was I? Yeah, of course. You see what's happening? Hello, trauma brain. There it is. It's yeah. Okay. So just reflecting back, I haven't started editing this episode yet, but just from my experience just reading the 13 steps, it's an FYI, English is not my first language, and I remember being so insecure about reading back in high school. I went to a high school where it was bilingual, so a lot of the classes were in English, and I dreaded being selected to read in front of the class because I had a very thick accent at the time. I didn't know how to pronounce a lot of words correctly, and I would mispronounce a lot more than I mispronounce these days. I know I mispronounce things here too, but it was a lot more back then, and I was a lot more self-conscious about it, and my confidence level was in the pit. And just doing that just now, I just want to take a moment to hold space for the fact that I felt pretty good. I was like, oh, check me out. I'm reading a book. I'm reading a book out loud in front of all these people that are listening to the podcast. Being in a class with a few kids was just terrifying for me to do that. And can I give myself a bit of a pat in the back? Because that was not bad. Well done, Raysa. Well done. Okay. I hope you found these steps helpful, and I hope that if you find yourself in an emotional flashback, you can refer back to this episode or to Pete Walker's steps, which are available on his website. I will be linking his website, also the book, and you can always bookmark this episode and come back anytime. In this week's Healing Invitation, I want to invite you to make these 13 steps more accessible. Perhaps bookmark Pete Walker's website that includes the steps. Take a picture of the steps from the book if you have the physical book, and have it on a device that's always on you. You can also print a copy and have it on your bag or have it somewhere accessible in your home. Next time you find yourself feeling triggered and you can't pinpoint why, try these steps and see if they help manage the intensity of what you are experiencing. you might be experiencing an emotional flashback, and sometimes it might not be until you finish the steps or go through them that you realize that you were actually having an emotional flashback. If you have loved ones that are active and invested in your healing journey, provide them with this tool and let them know that if you are ever in an emotional flashback around them, or reach out saying you are, that this is a great tool they can use to help you. It is not a cure, but it does feel empowering to take active steps as opposed to feeling like there is nothing that can be done. Please let me know how this week's healing invitation goes if you choose to accept it. Before we wrap up this episode, all music and production is courtesy of yours truly. Also, I want to share a few ways you can help support this podcast. You can subscribe and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or the platform you are using to listen. Share this episode with anyone you can think can benefit from this content. Follow Hello Trauma Brain on Instagram with the handle at Hello Trauma Brain. Subscribe to the Hello Trauma Brain YouTube channel and hit the notification bell to be the first to know when I post a new episode. And you can make a donation by getting me a coffee through the official bio site. No worries, all links will be provided in the show notes. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you found this episode helpful. I wish you the best as you learn to identify and manage your emotional flashbacks. It is time for our farewell affirmations. You are welcome to repeat after me. I am enough. I am lovable. And I deserve to heal. I wish you a gentle week, and thank you for listening.